Welcome to the CEO Tech Talks podcast, where vision meets impact. I am your host, Ambreen Ahmed. Each episode, I sit down with exceptional leaders who are shaping the future of business, technology, and transformation. This show is about more than just success. It's about clarity, purpose, and those bold decisions that light the way forward. Join me as we uncover the insights, challenges, and breakthroughs from today's most inspiring voices. Leaders who are redefining what it means to lead in a rapidly changing world. This is CEO Tech Talks. Let's dive in. Today's guest is Jeff Majka, founder and CEO of Security Bulldog. Thank you for joining, Jeff. Welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on the podcast. It's lovely to have a little conversation with you today.
Absolutely. Well, let's get into it. Jeff, for those of us watching who may not know of you yet, how do you describe what Security Bulldog does?
I'm the founder of the Security Bulldog. Essentially, we lower cost and speed remediation for enterprise cybersecurity teams using a natural language processing engine, or AI. Our CTO originally developed the intelligence community. We built what we call an AI cybersecurity intelligence platform to basically do a pretty simple but ubiquitous problem in cybersecurity, which is there's hundreds of thousands of cybersecurity practitioners who are spending 2 or 3 hours a day looking up stuff on the internet to answer some basic questions. What happened? Does it affect me and my team? And if it does, what do we do about it? And right now that's a manual process. And if you think about, the millions of dollars that are spent on labor costs and the idea that 20% of that's being wasted with them looking up stuff on the internet, what we wanted to do is, like I said, speed up remediation by making that more of an automated process and then using AI to augment the human beings as they sort of go through the decision-making process of, like I said, what to do about these problems when they pop up.
Okay, well, what inspired you to start Security Bulldog?
Yeah, I've been a couple decades in the cybersecurity industry. It was pretty obvious that the theory that everybody had for a long time, that there was going to be some sort of brute force solution to the cybersecurity problem, was clearly not working out. Our attack surfaces are increasing exponentially, and the people tasked with solving or managing them are not. So the widening gap between the problem and the solutions that are currently being used was increasingly obvious. You just hear it over and over and over again. My guys don't have time to save time. We don't need more data. We need better answers. We don't even need better answers. We need better, faster decision-making. And when you think about all the tools that we've all been using for the past couple decades, they're optimized for engagement, right? They're all essentially reverse chronological feeds where the algorithms are trying to keep you engaged as long as possible. And if you think about a cybersecurity tool, you think about the perfect cybersecurity tool, it would be the opposite of that, right? There'd be no engagement, right? It would be, hey, what's the minimum amount of information that I can give you and your team so you can make a highly confident decision right now, knowing that this afternoon or next week that answer might change, right? And it would do it you in a way where, given that the working memory of a human being is 7, and everybody has their own subjective answers to the question of how much is too much information or too little information or false negatives or false positives, the perfect tool would over time give you that decision-making outcome that's appropriate for your role and your team and what you're trying to do.
So what does a typical day look like for you?
Very busy. We started the company about 3.5 years ago. We launched our first minimum viable product not soon after. We've been slowly adding customers, adding integrations with other cybersecurity teams. We're raising money. We closed our first lead investor last year. So as a startup founder with a small team, I wear all of the hats that you would think I would wear, from finance to engineering to sales to marketing to messaging to competitive analysis to everything that you could think of. We do in a rolling basis, all mixed up together. So providing some structure around that is one of the challenges you have. Being able to switch gears from one thing to another is just part and parcel of that job. But yeah, what is my day like? Lots and lots of emails, lots and lots of Zoom calls, lots and lots of podcast recordings, reviewing this, filling out forms, doing 8 things at the same time. So yeah.
All right. So what major shifts are you seeing in the cybersecurity industry right now?
Yeah, I think that, cybersecurity is at an interesting sort of inflection point. I think like most parts of society, the automation and AI kind of working its way through our society in general. I think cybersecurity is kind of going first. So it's kind of a canary in the coal mine when it's trying to figure out okay, we have AI and what does that really mean? As somebody who's had an AI tool for a couple of years now, we started the company, we couldn't call it AI. You had to call it machine learning back then because nobody really wanted to talk about AI, which tells you how early we're into this whole process. But for us, it's how the question that hasn't really been answered really, especially in cybersecurity, is just how exactly is AI, automation, and people going to work together? So that interface between the AI and the human beings is going to be an interesting one. It's actually, we spent a lot of time talking to our customers and prospects about the exact interface between the tasks that people are doing, but also the workflow of a team, right? So it's not just, hey, AI can do these specific tasks better than human beings. It's, hey, AI is really good at looking for a needle in a stack of needles. Human beings are terrible at looking for a needle in a stack of needles. Let's free up, time for the human beings to do what they're good at, right? So AI can do what it's good at. Human beings can do what they're good at, which is talking to people and puzzle solving, right? Where we can solve the problems that AI can't do as we sort of move on top of the AI automation tools that are out there. So for us, it's always going to be the human in the loop, especially with cybersecurity. That's kind of the puzzles in cybersecurity are very, very hard. And oftentimes you'll find, 0 days, multiple 0 days happening, and the whole industry kind of like circling around trying to solve these very complicated, difficult puzzles sometimes. So for us, AI is going to be a great enabler for human beings to do more high value things to help manage their risks better.
So you are using AI within your business to do your daily tasks. Is that
Oh, yeah.
correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And are you using AI to help your clients?
Yep. So, I mean, at our core technology is a natural language processing engine, which is a kind of artificial intelligence. So, yeah, our core thing is, hey, let's take the things that you're bad at and have AI do it for you, and that frees up time for you to do more high value things. And again, it's not just one person. AI helping one person's kind of a simplistic implementation of it. AI, this is plural, interfacing with a team of human beings. To me, that's where we're at right now, and that's kind of how it's going to propagate out.
Okay. So when you're working with a cybersecurity client, what's the first thing you look at to improve their positioning?
So yeah, so for cybersecurity teams, again, what metrics they use to manage their productivity is still kind of an open question. So, mean time to repair, mean time to detect, mean time to remediate are all kind of like generally accepted metrics that cybersecurity teams use. So when we say we lower cost and speed remediation, we're talking about lowering remediation times.
Okay.
Just to give you a sense, so mean remediation times across, industry-wide is like 292 days. So from the time it takes somebody to find out about something to where it's remediated is a long time. And so when you're talking about, mean time to remediate, like if we can cut that time by 30%, that's a massive improvement. Mean time to detect by 80%. Again, detection is, hey, we're finding about a thing that's pertinent to us. And again, there's thousands of vulnerabilities that are out there. The ones that are pertinent to you and your organization is a smaller subset of that. But hey, how do we help you go through that process of detection to remediation? And that's where I think thinking through the workflow of that's a multi-step process, right? And it's not just going to be a daily thing. It's the things that sit there for 3 weeks. And we all like to think about, how do we interface with a human being who's clearing these remediation tickets, a ticketing service months down the road, not knowing the answers to the question. All right. So how do we speed remediation by making the human beings, we call it giving them the answers to the test, right? Here's what you need to do. Here's all the information you need. Anytime somebody's looking stuff up on the internet, we want to be there already with the answers to the test. And again, cybersecurity, it has to be proactive. The problem with the chat GPT style interface in cybersecurity is that it's too slow. If you're waiting around to ask a chat GPT a question, the world's moving too quickly and changing too quickly in cybersecurity. We believe that everything needs to be proactive and done ahead of time, right? Pre-collect all this information that they're going to need to make a decision or already know what they're going to do. So, and again, this is where kind of automation. And so if a process can be automated, okay, then yeah. So let's collect that information, push it into the record keeping. And again, in cybersecurity, just because you automatically patch something doesn't mean it's going to get unpatched down the road. So it's never, okay, this is done. We never have to worry about it. There's always a little bit of everything that we've patched in past can be, reactivated and re-exploited.
So what's working well for you at Security Bulldog right now and what's been frustrating?
I think what's been working well for us, and obviously a startup is a huge, massive its challenge is, there's a million different startup companies, cybersecurity companies out there. So from, a messaging standpoint, from my background, like yours is in marketing and business development. So how do we message what we're trying, the value proposition of our product in an incredibly noisy environment, right? And our value proposition is around removing friction from the process. So how do we engage with people in a way that's making their lives easier by taking kludgy manual stuff out of that workflow that they have to deal with, but do it in a way that's effective, but also has them involved with it, but also at the same time acknowledges the fact that they're very, very busy, right? And, they don't have time to save time. So we're going to have to do it for them. So that's a pretty massive challenge. We weren't, everybody knows that we've gone from an information scarce environment to an information glut environment, and we all are wrestling with that whole problem, right? It's just so easy to make content these days, right? From blog post to podcast to whatever. So it's just easy to do. And you want to make sure that you're providing high levels of value in the things that you're creating and out there. But it's just so easy, like, stuff that's going to be created and go by. And how do we get that stuff into the minds of the people who we can help in the most appropriate kind of way, whatever the avenue or channel is going to be.
Which metrics are you most focused on improving for both your clients and your own business?
So for us, obviously, revenues and, the first, second, third, fourth, and fifth important bullet point is closing new clients and growing the business. We have a lot of engineering work to do on our background, building out integrations with the rest of the cybersecurity ecosystem, which is, again, super, super important. I probably spend most of my time on those two things. For our customers, again, it's, hey, can we help you do these mechanical things like increasing remediation times, but also, cybersecurity is a really hard job, right? It's really hard to be in cybersecurity, right? It's, not a lot of thanks. That's stressful. You're always kind of like behind. There's like millions of data points that you have to like go on and think about. The world changes every single day. Like the cup of coffee problem that I like to talk about, where in cybersecurity, the uncertainty of like every morning when you woke up, you have no idea what kind of day it's going to be, right? A day with an easy solution, it could be a hard day with a hard solution. There could be a day where there is no solution, right? There could be a 0-day hits and you have to like run around and deal with this immediate problem. So how do we, the higher level stuff beyond productivity and managing their risk or their company's risk better is, how do we make their lives easier and more pleasant so they can do their jobs better, right? So it's a hard job, and a lot of the kludgy manual stuff that people suck at, which is frustrating, let's do that for them. Let's free up time for them to have better lives and better outcomes just generally. And I think that's an important part of this. And again, 30,000-foot view in cybersecurity, right? There's no brute force solution, right? We can't just invent a million more people to work on these problems. So we have to like, not to say get more out of people we already have, but how do we make them happier at their job so they can be better at puzzle solving, right? So I think that's it. To me, that's an exciting part of that.
Well, so cybersecurity is a noisy market. What strategies actually cut through for vendors trying to stand out?
I think you have to go a couple different ways. For me, I've always believed in, trying to get things into plain English and try to get as far away from, and again, cybersecurity is renowned for acronyms and being hard to penetrate and difficult for people to understand. How do we speak in plain English to folks about the problems that they face in a way that they do, like over beers after work at a trade show, right? How do we explain to that? How do we explain to them the benefits that they're going to get out of this? And again, in a way that's not kind of like every other one that's come before. I think I think the cybersecurity companies traditionally did a lot of FUD marketing. So fear, uncertainty, and doubt. They try to scare people into doing the right thing or making outlandish claims about how they're going to solve this and solve that. And I think that generally speaking, CISOs with the rest of the cybersecurity industry, they've just heard it for decades, right? What was, I was at RSA 20 years ago and, one day there'll be a breach so bad that it'll scare everybody into doing the right thing. And we've had, 20 years later, we had like 3 of those a day now. So, the idea, and this is where we kind of get to like, thinking about cybersecurity as a human being problem and not a technology problem. And that human beings are, say that they're lazy and they hate delayed gratification, but it's kind of true. And cybersecurity is hard and requires large amounts of delayed gratification. So how do we not only get people to do it, but how do we get the people who are doing it better at it? I think that's an ongoing challenge. But I think that stepping back from, hey, we've got a technology that's supposed to solve this, to, hey, these are human beings. This is a human being problem. We've created it. Uh, how do we help manage it? And I think that's an important thing that we like to think about.
The common thread I'm hearing here throughout our conversation is the noise, the problems, the response time, et cetera. How do you balance the dual role of leading your company while being deeply involved in client strategy?
Well, I mean, they're the same thing in a startup, right? Well, I mean, company strategy, client strategy, talking to our customers. The great thing about a startup is that flywheel of interaction with the marketplace is, continuous and ongoing, right? So that's the great thing about why people work in startups is you're having these conversations and then immediately talking to the engineers. You're talking to prospects and getting feedback and objections, or what about this and what about that? Can we have this? Can we have that? I think that's initially, which always draws, startup founders and why people start companies is, that challenge of building that relationship and getting that feedback, and that's why you do it.
Well, thank you so much, Jeff, for joining us on CEO Tech Talks.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you having me on your podcast, Maureen, and I look forward to seeing the rest of the podcasts as they come out.
To learn more about Jeff and Security Bulldog, visit securitybulldog.com. Thank you for joining CEO Tech Talks. I hope today's conversation sparked new insights and inspiration for your own leadership journey. Until next time, stay inspired, stay visionary, and keep leading with light. Brought to you by Neura AI Consulting.